Okay, so this is you can kinda see I've got my wrap on, and then this picture that went everywhere. That
Mhm.
picture is about 1 minute after taking my head wrap off that I had had on for a whole week. That smile is, "Oh, my head can breathe again," and, it's not a small surgery. Like, they drill a hole about the size of a quarter. I think my implant is right about there.
So, Neuralink has now implanted their devices in at least 12 people. And we have the good fortune of talking with the eighth patient, Nick Wray, who got his implant at the University of Miami Hospital. And I wanted to share this post. So, the other day on X, you shared a video that went pretty viral. We'll play that video. But first, I wanted to read a quote from your post and then have you expand on what you shared. So, life with my BCI has been and continues to be so surreal and so rewarding. It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life so far. I spent Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday working with the Assistive Robotic Arm, or ARA team, operating the ARA with my brain computer interface, or BCI. I put on my own hat for the first time in years. I microwaved my own chicken nuggets and fed myself. So, can you react to that?
Uh, yeah, I mean, like, I don't think a lot of people take into consideration the little things, all of the little things that everybody does every day. Slapping a hat on, taking a hat off, pulling your sunglasses off and putting them right back on your face. Um, making your own food, feeding yourself. It's all taken for granted kind of out of necessity because everybody has the whole rest of their lives they gotta deal with. And and attempting to foster a grateful mindset and starting with like, "I'm so thankful I can put on a hat," might be pushing it a little bit. Uh, but there are so many of those little things that you lose when you become a quadriplegic, whether you lose them immediately with a spinal cord injury or you lose them over time with ALS. It's being able to do again, even just for myself, is it's life changing. It just is. And I only did it for a week, 3 days. And it's, being able to put a plate in a microwave, start it, pull said plate out of the microwave. I mean, before they showed up with the ARA, the idea of opening the microwave, let alone doing anything with it, was so out of the realm of possibility. Like, it was like, yeah, we're just gonna nip off to Saturn for lunch." Like, these are not things that happen. And, yeah, making the impossible, especially when it's the formerly possible, possible again. Um, uh, DJ just released a cool video about the user interface, and it ends with "Welcome back." And that
Mhm.
is so what it feels like. Like, just when it's been so long since you've put your hands on a keyboard or a trackpad or navigated software or the web, "Welcome back" is such a perfect sentiment. Yeah.
So I just pulled that up, and I think it'd be cool for us to play that to show the viewers. Yeah, it's such a great app. It just seems so intuitive, and I love that it's going to be available for those who may not even be tech savvy at all, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's it's going to be interesting to watch the Neuralink team develop the the like, as they're iterating through the software and the user interface. It's already changed a little bit from that video. Uh, I think for the better. It still looks just as like he did a great job with the layout and the UI. But yeah, there have already been improvements and changes since since he made that. And it's it's gonna be yeah, I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how they navigate the challenges of attempting to scale this up to a community who may not be very tech savvy while not being able to be hands on with every single participant as they, as we begin to approach hundreds, they're not going to have one BCI engineer for every single participant. It's just not feasible. But being able to build the UI in an intuitive way that allows for significantly less, if not zero, hand holding, that is going to be crucial. And if they can nail that, I think they'll be really well positioned to be able to market this to anybody, the not tech savvy, like, and I think a good example of that is Audrey, who you've already interviewed. She was paralyzed for 20 years, and her last familiar interactions with a laptop were in 2005. So things have changed a little bit. And so it's not that she is not tech savvy, she just hasn't had the opportunity to use any of this stuff yet. So, yeah, being able to learn on the fly when you haven't touched a computer in 20 years, or whatever your situation is massive. And I think being able to do that independently is going to be key.
and I just want to make sure the audience is all on the same page. So, Neuralink has started with helping paralyzed individuals regain digital freedom by being able to read their brain signals and then convert those to control a mouse and a keyboard. But probably the reason that your last post went viral is people recognize the extra independence of giving you physical freedom rather than just digital freedom. Um, so can you talk about like the reason that you decided to get the Neuralink in the first place and just your journey with ALS?
Yeah. Um, I guess we'll start with the ALS because that came first chronologically. Um, I noticed a foot drop in late May of 2020, and that's an indicator of a lot of things. Most of them are not terminal. And then it sort of progressed. I was walking with a cane by Thanksgiving, and I talked to my dad. I was like, "This is it's starting to get a little concerning." He said, "No, that's a lot concerning. You should definitely go see a neurologist about that." And I was very, very fortunate to get into the Cleveland Clinic about a week later. And they ran some of their tests, sent me home to do a couple of MRIs. And then when I came back, I had an EEG. And if you've ever had one, I sympathize with you. If you have not, do your best to avoid it. Ask if there's a different test, maybe. They're not great. But so we went to lunch after my EEG and we're talking, and all I really wanted to ask Dr. Clater was how many non-terminal illnesses are still on the table based on what we found. Like, what are we looking at percentage wise? And we got back up to the office and we're waiting for him to come into the room. And he came in and said, "So I've got some really bad news." And I didn't even get to ask him what else there might be on the board that was non-terminal, because mine was definitively terminal. And it's a really surreal moment to get a terminal diagnosis. Like the weird kind of cliche thing you see on TV or in movies when, it just sort of, there's a little bit of tinnitus and everybody else sounds like they're talking underwater and there really isn't anything but your own thoughts, which are very few, because there's a certain amount of shock. Uh, it's a surreal experience, and pretty much since that day, a lot of my life has been a pretty surreal experience, and I think being able to frame it that way, even when the surreality is not good, has been helpful in surviving. So I had my diagnosis and I began progressing. Both my legs went. I was using a rollator for a while. Ended up getting the power wheelchair. And recently this year, my hands went at the beginning of the year. My arms went a little before and through the summer. My core is going, my neck is going. Obviously, my voice is going. And it's just like it's part of it. And that, like having ALS, this is just part of the journey. But also, it's really rough. And so, to mitigate those situations as much as possible, my family and I have done, in my opinion, a fantastic job of getting out in front of whatever the next thing I'm going to need is. Whether it's, I'm not going to be able to transfer by myself anymore. We're going to need a Hoyer lift. And so we can talk to the ALS closets around and see if anybody has one. We were very fortunate to get an electronic Hoyer lift when it became apparent that I was going to begin to need assistance toileting. One of the first purchases I made was a bidet because I'm trying to save my dignity as much as possible. And so just finding those things, when my arms started going, we got a tool called an OBI, and it will feed you. It's a cool little robot arm, really little, but it did the job. And to me, that was a really good technology for bridging the gap between I am not ready to let other people feed me and uh, and being willing, getting to that point, like, all right, just you and I both know this is going to be easier, so let's just scoot the robot out of the way and you start feeding me. And there are a lot of those moments that you have to be careful not to let steal your dignity. Like, it's just a thing that it is. It's very matter of fact. This isn't something I instigated. And being able to maintain your dignity through losing independence is important. And I think tools like the Obi are a really great way to allow people to transition to acceptance of their situation or of part of their situation by allowing them a certain level of autonomy.
Thank you for sharing all that. Can you also talk about like the process of applying?
Yeah, so the next logical step in getting out in front of things, my aunt sent the X post about Brad Smith P3 to my dad and was like, look, he has ALS too. This is the Neuralink sounds like something. Nick's really techie. He would be into this. Mm-hmm. And I went to the website and they were like, now open globally. And I was like, oh, well, but, you know, it's free. I can put my email in and maybe something happens, maybe something doesn't. And 2 days later, I got a Google Calendar invite request to set up a time to talk with Neuralink about my patient registry application. And that first phone call, I was over the moon excited. Like, before I had ALS, like, William Gibson is one of my favorite authors. I'm really into a lot of cyberpunk stories and digital futuristic sci-fi stuff. And so in one of Gibson's original books, well, it started with a short story in Johnny Mnemonic and then went on to Neuromancer. And though I was like, brain implants to be able to do extra cool stuff, yes, please. Like, how do I get this? And so from the time I was like 13, I was like, if they ever come out with that, sign me up. Like, no hesitation, let's do it. And so suddenly I had that opportunity. And I was like, yes, please, let's sign me up. How do we, can I do it this weekend? And I was chomping at the bit. And Neuralink did a really good job out the gate of recalibrating my expectations. And like, I was really gung-ho. And they explained to me very calmly and kindly that it's pretty rare to become a Neuralink participant. There are literally hundreds of things that could preclude you. And so as you're going through the screening processes, at any point during any of those screenings, you could be cut. As you know, it's just the situation that they're in. And so doing all of the tests and knowing that was mildly stressful. A lot of the waiting and just not knowing, like, is something going to knock me out today? Was there something in the blood samples? Was there, I don't know what the hundreds of things are, but, it would be a bummer to find out, like, hey, thanks for applying. But, it's just not gonna work. They also do a good job of really driving home the idea that this is a research study. There is no guaranteed benefit to any of the participants. Technically, the PRIME study is studying the safety and efficacy of the robot surgeon. So once you come off the table, assuming you're doing really well, there, as far as the PRIME study is concerned, I was a successful candidate. And the rest of, the rest of the Neuralink studies are icing on the cake. They have proved the safety and efficacy of the robot surgeon, in my opinion. The FDA would like to see a few more trials. But now they have all of these people who have Neuralinks because the surgery was a success. And there is so much data gathering to be done. And I mean, it's gotta be like trying to drink from a fire hose for these guys. It's just every single day they collect an amount of data that is probably going to take them a week to get through. So they're building themselves a lot of hours of work just by doing the research. And that's really cool. That is very, very cool. So I applied, I got picked. I went down for my final screening with my dad. Spent a few days in Miami doing a lot of tests, a lot of blood tests. There was one day that was the last of my MRIs, which I suppose is good. But it was 4 back-to-back MRIs, 1 functional and 3 regular. And that's a lot of time to lay in a tube. It's kind of a lot. But now that I have an N1 implant, I can never get another MRI again. And so some people frame it that way. I like to think I don't ever have to get another MRI again. That's my days of climbing into that tube are over. So yeah, the decision to proceed with the Neuralink sessions, interviews, was an easy one. And there were times when it occurs to you that you are waiting to find out if you're going to get a brain implant that will allow you to control electronics. And that is a sentence out of a movie, not a sentence in real life. And so when things of that magnitude kind of hit you, it can be a lot. And I don't think I had any moment where I hesitated or questioned or thought, maybe I shouldn't do this. I did have moments where I was very worried. They're not gonna pick me. Something is gonna happen. They're gonna find a thing. My skull's too thick. My skull's too thin. My middle finger has too much movement. I don't know whatever it could be. And if that happens, I'm out. And that is true pretty much until you're getting wheeled into the OR. Like it's like a launch. Are we go, no go for launch? And there's a chance of no go right up until it happens. And so that was the most, I guess, I don't want to say stressful, but kind of nerve-wracking thing that I had to deal with was the uncertainty and the not knowing until I did. And even once I did, being like, please let everything go smoothly from here. Because it seemed like the Neuralink would help me get out in front of so much of the physical loss that I am going through now and gonna go through in the very near future. Losing your arms completely, losing your voice. I have the ability to use a professional voice clone from 11 Labs with my BCI, and that is going to be huge. I'll have my old voice back again. But yeah, I think the decision to apply and to keep going, I was talking to my friend Eric about it once, and I said, I'm anxious, but as long as I keep putting one foot in front of the other, metaphorically, eventually I will have a brain implant or I won't. And then I can move on with life from there.
The way that you seem to think about all this and the attitude that you have, I feel like it's similar to how I would be. I want to think that I would be taking it as this is a matter of fact situation and it sucks, but I'm going to do my best to just get through it with knowing that this is what is likely to occur. But there are plenty of things where I could think that I'm going to be that way, but actually it would be really tough to have that strength. This was in one of your earliest posts on X where you said, "It's not lost on me that without ALS, I would never have been a candidate for the study. I sincerely believe that if ALS is the price of admission to an opportunity of this magnitude, you pay it gladly, willingly, and without hesitation. I would do it all again to end up right where I am. I'm right where I'm supposed to be." So can you talk about like the mindset, and can you elaborate on what makes you feel this way?
Yeah, I meant every word of that. And after I posted it, I was worried a little bit that it could come off as flippant towards people who have ALS and don't have the benefits of a BCI. And, it's, you don't wish ALS on anyone. This is an absolutely devastating disease. And, it's still happening. I have an ALS and, or I have a BCI, and my ALS took a back seat to that for probably the first 60 days. And recently, my progression has been a little more quick than I would like. And it's just kind of a reminder from the universe like, hey, don't forget, you're still dying and in a hurry. Like, it might feel like you can do everything and you've got all the time in the world, but you don't. You really don't. And so I think and I still believe if ALS is the price of admission. And I don't know if I phrased it in a certain way that comes off as a little bit insensitive to me, but the sentiment is essentially really awful things can happen in your life. And those awful things can open doors in your life that you would not have access to otherwise. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't meet people that you will meet. You wouldn't experience things you would experience. You wouldn't have the conversations. You wouldn't have the time with loved ones. You wouldn't have so many things. And you also wouldn't be dying in your mid to late 40s. I believe that having the opportunity to do something like this and help push the frontiers of bleeding edge tech, like the biotechnology that I didn't expect to see in my lifetime, that I get to pioneer, it's mind-blowing. I didn't think this would even be a thing in my lifetime. And now not only is it, I'm one of the 12, so far. And yeah, I think the sentiment that if given the opportunity to help so many people after me, it feels like a no-brainer. Like this is going to change lives for hundreds of thousands, millions of people in the future. And for me to be like, oh, we got a lot of fatigue with the ALS, and I don't know if I'm gonna. Nah, man, you sign up gladly and willingly so that those who come after might not have to go through all of the things you went through. And to me, being given the opportunity to do something and that is, in my opinion, a very noble cause. Like I get to join this group of absolutely brilliant people to help humanity. And that is, I truly believe that. And I think that is something worth sacrificing what you need to be able to help with.
It reminds me of this post that you had on X where it was a reply to Jeff. He said, "The beauty of donating my body to science before I'm dead is that it's a great value add for my life and all of those who come after me. I'm very excited about helping to develop this technology to be as restorative as possible for the largest number of people." You're basically like helping everybody after, and also right now you're helping Neuralink every day with gathering data and then also providing them feedback on the use of the device because they can't experience what it's like.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you've shared with them in that feedback?
I'm not sure we have enough time, but there have been a lot. And when I share something, hey, why is this way? It seems unnecessarily difficult. What if, can we make this like, one of the examples, there's a pop-up keyboard everybody has on the bottom of their screen. You put your mouse on the bottom of the screen, it pops up. You put your mouse on the bottom of the screen again, it goes away. It used to pop up and go away the instant your cursor touched the edge of the screen. And to me, that seemed problematic. So I said, can we make it so that there's just a little bit of a delay? It doesn't have to be like 3 full seconds, but if my cursor hits the bottom of the screen and stays there for 1.5 seconds, the keyboard pops up, because so much of the time, especially on a Mac, when you're moving through the icons on the dock at the bottom of the screen, your cursor is inevitably going to bounce a couple times. And you don't want that keyboard jumping up every single time. And the next iteration, 2 iterations later, it was fixed. And there was a hiccup with the calibration, and I figured out what it was and a workaround to get out of it so it didn't break calibration. And when I ran them through it, they were like, oh, that's what that's doing. And so they could make that tweak. And the very next update for the Link app included a fix for that. So they are really, really responsive to participant feedback, not just mine. When any of the participants find a use case that's not maybe the best user experience or just downright broken, those get addressed within a day or two. The Link updates, Link is the primary app we use to control our cursor. And the Link updates come through almost daily, sometimes twice a day. They are iterating at a ridiculous pace, and it's only getting better.
Yeah, so great. Can you talk about, so you and your caretakers and family interact with Neuralink physically in your home, I assume, and then also a lot of times digitally. Can you just help share that experience working with them and hopefully provide some confidence to those who are considering joining the trials and participating?
Yeah. Working with the Neuralink team is maybe the best job I never had. Like, I'm a research participant, but the density of talent and the people that are working there and the passion that they all have for what they're doing. I worked with them almost entirely virtually, with the exception of the very first weekend in Miami. They sent one of the BCI engineers down to help Audrey and I get squared away. with our tech. And that was my first interaction. And I had met these people remotely before. So it was cool getting to meet everybody in person. And then everything has been virtual until last week when they brought the robot arm out. And that, just out of necessity, requires them to be here. Like, I don't still have that robot arm. It's research. The Convoy study is research. So we are Convoy off. There we go. And it allows me to experience things like putting my own hat on or eating food or whatever. And it allows me to demonstrate the ability to do this in a short number of days so that they have the they have the information they need to present to the FDA. Convoy right now is a lot like FSD. It's just not approved for unsupervised use. Like, there need to be people around, and it can't just be the person in the chair, because we might hurt somebody, ourselves or somebody else. And I understand the need for caution and wanting to make sure everything looks good first. So while there were, cool trick shot and feeding myself food and beating records, moving that arm around, doing it like it was just an appendage of my body, it wasn't all for, but it was also for demonstrating to the FDA that this is a viable product that could help quadriplegics, and they don't need supervision with it. So a lot more steps to come with that before I think anybody is getting to keep a robot arm.
I'm looking up because I know the Astro Danish had reposted something. Trying to find it. He oh yeah, Astro Danish Hussein. Oh yeah, okay. Let's see. Let's share this tab and add that. So Danish shared this where he says, it responded just as naturally and quickly as if it had been attached to my body. And I love that that's the case. Like, I think that's underappreciated, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I mean, that video is from the middle of day 3. I wasn't doing that on day 1, a tiny bit on day 2, but halfway through day 3, I'm gonna have to ask them. There's a clip right after this that they have, I'm sure, that's not terribly exciting, but I think they're all in the other room checking some data on their laptops or something. And I'm just sitting in my chair, like shrugging to myself, just like, I don't know, that's whatever. But I am doing it entirely with the robot arm because I can't really do that with my arms. So it was, trying out little physical gestures like that are really big in communication. I mean, like something like 70% of communication is nonverbal. And suddenly having a little bit of body language back is really cool. Yeah, it was just like using an appendage that was attached to me. The latency was negligible. You couldn't even tell. It was really, really impressive.
Yeah, so cool. This video is actually very funny too. Like you're sharing a joke.
I feel like I should probably hold on to it the whole time and probably like gesture wildly with it. You're like, you guys, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, here's the thing. So, like, I'll be able to talk with my hands again. So, listen, if we're all here tonight, I think.
Yeah, the arm gesticulating, I see it.
Are those plates microwave safe?
That's pretty freaking ridiculous.
Can you describe this process, like just using the Neuralink every day and then also separately using this assistive robotic arm, just like the full details, as much as you can explain to somebody who has like no clue about Neuralink?
Like you had said, it allows you to use a mouse and a keyboard, which is yes and no. It allows me to control a cursor like a mouse would, but the Bluetooth signals are not coming from the mouse. They're coming from my brain. And access to a keyboard, I have the online one that I can click through with a cursor, that lots of other people, it's just an on-screen keyboard. And those two seemingly unimportant things, they're so minor, open up a world of the entire digital world that you lost access to when you had your accident or when your ALS progressed too far. And on the daily, being able to pay my own bills for the first time in years, I can hop online and do that easily. Before, I could have done it on my phone using voice control, and it would have been maddening, but I could have done it. So the facility that this grants in doing all of those things is absolutely game changing. It's because it's so easy. It makes it, in my opinion, the number one choice for how to navigate the digital world as a quadriplegic, compared to all of the other options out there. And, opinions are my own. Your results may vary, but I yeah, just the daily use of it is like I can play spelling bee again. This might not be a huge thing, but if anybody plays the NYT games, Wordle, spelling bee, connections, whatever. So spelling bee, the way it works on mobile, if you have to use voice control, every letter gets a number, and those numbers change every time you say the number. And so it can take a very long time to get a word programmed in before you say the number for enter. And I had gotten very good at that. My level of patience was monk-like. And, suddenly being able to open that game on my laptop and just tap through it again like I was tapping the screen on my phone was like, oh my, I can type like 13 words in the time it took me to say the numbers for one. It was awesome. And so the day-to-day use case for me is predominantly navigating a computer, any OS. Currently it's Mac OS, but the precision, like the three dots in the top left, green, yellow, red, you want to maximize, minimize, or close it. I can zip over those dots and click the one I want easily. It's not shaky around those dots. And if it is, I probably need to recalibrate, and then it will be dialed right back in. So having not only a tool to navigate the laptop, but having a tool that is as accurate as I ever was with a mouse or a trackpad is massive. Like it's gaining that level of control back, like an able-bodied level of control back, is life-changing. It just is. And using the ARA is a bit different. It's not the cursor model. A minute ago when you heard me say convoy off, well, there it went again, but it wasn't on. There are things that will trigger on and trigger off with verbal phrases and cues. And the same thing applies with all of it, with the cursor, with the robot arm, but you have a different model, a decoder, I guess, if you will, for your brain signals for the cursor than you do for the assistive robotic arm. So your intention when you're moving a cursor around is entirely two-dimensional. And so transitioning that to the three-dimensional realm and then trying to get as close as you can to biomimetic movement. We were up to 12 DOF, degrees of freedom, unlocked in the ghost arm that I practiced with digitally for a long, long time before they brought the robot arm out. But the cool thing about that one, the ghost arm, I can move individual fingers. You saw it in the summer 2025 update, rock, paper, scissors. I was terrible. It took me a week to be able to throw scissors. I It was really tricky getting individual fingers. But once you get there, it's like my hand hasn't done that in years. Like getting to manipulate a hand on the screen, being like I was just giddy. The movement that I had back, it wasn't even, I mean, I guess it's debatable how real it was, but I wasn't manipulating a robot arm. It was all digital, and it was just incredible.
Yeah, I think it's weird to me that our brain is able to just make it feel like whatever tool we're using becomes truly a natural extension of ourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like this kind of interesting. There's this like brain teaser or like thing that trick people's brains where they have like their real hand or their real arm like under a towel. I thought that was like really interesting that your brain just starts to think this fake hand really becomes you, and then they like slam it with a hammer and like, wow, you just become
Yeah,
tricked so easily. Everybody.
everybody jumps, and it happens to everybody. Like neuroplasticity is at this point in my life, neuroplasticity means something different than it does in your brain, than it does in a high school kid's brain. And like at this point, my neuroplasticity will allow me to increase or decrease the signals that I'm sending. So I can have some dynamic range in moving my cursor. It's not one speed. I can speed it up, I can slow it down, just by thinking about how fast or slow I want to move it. I apologize. I just got sidetracked.
No, that's okay.
What was what was your question? Where am I going with this?
We were talking about like the control and like tricking your brain and the neuroplasticity.
Oh yeah. Um, that has been kind of a lot of fun to experiment with on my own. I don't have sessions every single day with Neuralink anymore. I'm usually 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more depending on what's going on. Doing multiple projects with them, and it is I'm really sorry again.
It's okay.
We're talking about neuroplasticity and your brain learning things. So, thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
It is very cool to learn about my own brain on the fly as I'm using it in ways that you just can't without a BCI. And one of the wild things I discovered in that video that Ruse made, it shows, move your arm forward, move your arm right, move your arm back. These are all imagined movements for cursor control initially. Now the movements for cursor control, when I started, were from the wrist, kind of wrist joystick. If you're holding your fist out in front of you, You can tilt it up, tilt it left, right, down. So those were the directions, those were the signals for moving a cursor. And I had discovered over a certain amount of time that I was no longer controlling the cursor with my arm or my wrist or any of it. I was controlling the cursor with one knuckle of my index finger. And it felt for all the world like using the force is the closest thing I can compare it to. Like a subtle intention, the cursor goes that way, and the cursor goes that way. And I don't need to give the BCI so much data for it to read, for it to understand what I'm doing. My intention is cursor up. As long as it's cursor up, that's the direction it goes, regardless of whatever part of me I'm pushing to do that. Your brain, at least I think, your brain acts based on intention. You want the box of cereal off the top shelf, you reach up and grab the box of cereal off the top shelf. There is no, in my opinion, the idea that your brain is executing all of these really complicated, the number of muscles that need to move in conjunction with each other to get that box of cereal from the top shelf. Mm-hmm. I think when you intend that, whether it's with your right arm or your left arm or with a step ladder, whatever the movements need to be, your body will do that. Those are the movements that need to occur for this to happen. And it might not be reaching with your arm. You know, maybe you've got a kid in your hand and you're just reaching out to get it from somebody who grabbed it for you. Your intention has always been get the box of cereal off the top shelf. And however your body needs to move to get that done, it will do. And yeah, I'm not convinced that there is a ton of math happening in your motor cortex and neurons firing. And I think we have another question a little bit later on that I'll touch back on this kind of idea of moving with intention versus moving to move. Like the intention is not lifting my arm. The intention is getting the cup of water.
It's just like people with a cursor, though. You don't think about picking up the cursor. And
Thank you. Love you, Mom.
Sorry.
I mean, is your mom named Sandy? The email invite that I got was
yeah.
Hi, Mom.
Sorry.
No, I'm personally very comfortable having you also join in if you'd like. If not, that's totally fine as well.
It's totally up to Nick.
Yeah, if you want, pull up a chair.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you saw like my interview with Audrey. Like Derek was not, I don't think, intending to share, but it was cool to hear his perspective as well.
Yeah,
that was good. So I've I've definitely gone out of order. I've definitely gone out of order, and then I've also shared or asked some things that are not on here. And then also this last bit that you were talking about, I'm like, gosh, it'd be really, I feel like that's a unique insight that only you and the other patients would have, because you basically have this tool that's helping provide feedback for you in a way that most other people cannot grasp. Like my guess is that or I guess I should frame it this way. Do you feel you have a better understanding of how your brain works, at least for motor control, than those without a Neuralink?
I do. I think I do. I mean, probably excluding several of the top neuroscientists in the world, they might know better than me. And, but my experience is what it feels like. And I'm learning that it doesn't, like, my body doesn't work quite or my body doesn't react to my brain in quite the way I thought it did. And I think that, along with dozens of other things that Neuralink and Neuralink patients have discovered, I think Neuralink has probably learned more about the human brain in the last 18 months than most of medicine learned about the human brain in the last 50 years. It would be really, really interesting to see some papers published about how we understand the brain, 18 months into Neuralink or 24 months into Neuralink. Like, these are the things we've learned. The 10-finger typing, I do that with both of my hands, but my implant is in my left motor cortex. So my right hand should be no problem. How do I do it with my left hand? But I do. And so, and there are a lot of things about the brain I think that we will be relearning, changing our understanding about. Like, the left hemisphere of your brain controls the right side of your body, and that's it. Well, maybe not. And that's a pretty foundational piece of neuroscience. So when that gets seemingly uprooted, I think it will be interesting to see what else we discover in the next 5 years about what we thought we knew about the human brain.
So, I mean, we definitely have more questions, but since your mom is here, I thought it'd be great to, Mom, have your perspective on this whole thing, like from being diagnosed with ALS to now going through with the Neuralink implant. And were you concerned about the implant? Are you using AI to ask health questions in the middle of the night? Are you getting generic answers, or even worse, a flood of confusing possibilities? Me too. Today's sponsor, Linkachart, an ultra-personalized health AI app, pulls together your medical records, lab tests, and data from wearables, then adds that context when you ask AI a question. Instead of vague advice, you get ultra-personalized answers, like what are the best supplements for you, what's worsening your back pain, or even how to improve your brain health. It makes your health questions easier, smarter, and personal. Do me a favor and click the link in the description to pre-order Linkachart for free. No credit card required.
I was very concerned. He talked about it, and I said, "This is brain surgery. It's brain surgery," and I was scared and worried, and trying to figure out what if I send him down there and they break him and send him back broken, and he's like, "Oh, Mom," and so we did a lot of research and looked into the other patients and how things went, and Neuralink was very patient and very helpful with their explanations about everything, and it was clear that it was something that Nick was going to do, period, the end. And so I just kind of had to climb on board and hold my breath and go for it, and we did. And I just, to me, the most incredible part about all of it is that when you have ALS, all you know is that tomorrow is going to be worse than today, because the progression just goes that way, and you're going to die from it. And so trying to find things that, to be grateful for, or, to keep you busy as you're losing more and more and more autonomy and not being able to do so many of the things that kept you busy and happy and interested before in your life. It's just hard. And as a parent, it's heartbreaking to just watch. And so when he got the Neuralink, and he was just so like, he was on pins and needles, and it's going to happen. They're doing it. And then he had it implanted, and he's like, "Mom, it's so amazing." And just to watch him come home, and just, he can do so many things. And the thing is, like I've said to other people on the ALS websites and in the support groups that we have, it's not that Neuralink is going to, this implant is not going to change the face of his ALS. It's not a cure. It's not a, panacea for all that ails you. It's just that before the implant, life was all about ALS. And, you try to think about other things or do other things, and you come back to, I'm so tired today, and it's getting harder to eat, and, I can't smile anymore, and all those horrible things. And afterward, it's like out of his whole life and everything that we have going on and all the phenomenal firsts that he's able to do, ALS is like, it's like this big. It's over in the corner. It's not, he still has ALS, and we deal with, taking care of his body. But when he goes to bed at night, he's thinking about, tomorrow I'm going to, and then, maybe the next part, and, the change is just phenomenal. It's just night and day. And if anyone has any, worries about any part of it, if you're healthy enough to have the surgery, and if you would be accepted, I just highly recommend it. It's just been incredible.
It's fantastic. Did you guys watch the interview with Nolan, or any of Nolan's interviews where he talks about like playing a joke on his mom?
No, I haven't seen those.
So he had this thing where, like, I guess shortly after the surgery was completed and his mom went back into the room, he said, like, "Who are you?" And yeah, there's like this prank or this joke.
Oh, wow.
Hey,
Smooth on your feet, Nolan.
Yeah.
I wish I had thought to do that.
I would have killed you.
So we had recently, we got an 18-month update from Nolan, and now he's working as a full-time keynote speaker. He's attending community college and studying neuroscience. He's just overall he had a fantastic attitude and personality, and I could see that that's the case from talking to him, and then also just reading his posts and watching his interviews. But your response to him was, "Thank you for all your hard work and dedication to this research. Because of your year and a half of pushing the boundaries of what a BCI can do, I was able to use a beat sequencer on day 3. My joyful anticipation of what the future holds is a feeling I haven't had in quite some time." So I wanted to share this post on X where you showed yourself using this tool. Okay, so let's see. This is 1:09. So I'll play a little bit of this, and then I have you talk about your passions and your experience using this for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Neural step sequencer.
Being able to use the step sequencer was the easiest thing I could think to slap a demo up.
We're just
Of course, like right there, I throw 4 on the floor. I'm like, no, I want it to be more interesting. So I immediately started scooching stuff. And this was literally the first time I had used this software in probably 4 years, maybe a little more than that. I just hadn't touched it at all. And being able to go in like this and so quickly, and right here you see that was a rim. And so right there, I go to, after adding the rim shot, I go to do hi-hats, and I wonder, can I do that with the drag functionality? And so I go over and switch to the drag functionality. There's the whole, yep, right there. That was one drag to get the hi-hats. And finding that functionality on the fly, like, can I do this? Oh, give it a shot. And it turns out, yeah, I can do that. That's excellent. So being able to, because your cursor is not exactly the same as a mouse, you have to switch what your right click functionality does. You either have right click, or you have click and drag, or you have frame scroll. There's a lot of different functionalities, but you can only have one at a time. So it was really exciting to be able to play with those a little bit right out the gate and discover that I could still do things like dropping a beat in a couple minutes. I was pretty giddy after throwing that together. But yeah, I was just over the moon.
Awesome. So I know you discussed a lot about like your experience using the device. Can you talk about the practical, like, tangible steps that you had to take after getting the device? Like, what was it like to turn it on for the first time, use it? What is it like calibrating every day?
Okay, so you can kind of see I've got my wrap on, and then this picture that went everywhere. That picture is about 1 minute after taking my head wrap off that I had on for a whole week. That smile is, oh, my head can breathe again. And it's not a small surgery. Like they drill a hole about the size of a quarter. I think my implant is right about there. But the hole the size of a quarter in your skull, to get to your skull, they have to move your scalp out of the way. And it's not a small piece of scalp that they need to move. So it was kind of a lot. Sorry if that's really gruesome. It was a pretty big surgery. And yeah, when I came out of it, my very first experience, this was a 7-minute video. I clipped down to 2. We can just watch the first little bit. But those are my spike rasters on the laptop. I'm clearly fresh out of surgery, and they're showing me. That's my surgeon, Dr. Amadeo, one of the surgical team. He's the Neuralink surgeon. And so they're showing me my spike rasters, and I had been messing around seeing if I could make them do something.
Yeah. It definitely takes some discovery, playing around, practice to find them. Sometimes you get lucky and you find them.
Bright, dark. And so you can see the row on the bottom, the row in the middle. I was just messing with it.
We can. Do.
Like, I can make my neural
drumming? Wow.
pop, 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 pop. So this is me drumming in my head, and the rhythms are showing up predominantly on the bottom.
Oh, that's so awesome.
That is pretty cool. There's so many channels that have this like pattern.
Okay, Jordan's here.
Oh, Jordan's
And then
here. Okay,
these
are
people.
you want to drum for Jordan?
Oh, yes. Make it bright and dark. Pop, 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 pop.
See right along the bottom.
And then if we do slow, we do dark light, dark light, dark light,
This is my favorite bit.
light.
What's the task?
Well,
He's just
doing
freestyling.
freestyling.
Oh, you're just watching that.
Yeah,
just
just the
watching.
spike
I'm seeing where I.
So that was pretty exciting to just be freestyling. Well enough that Dr. Amadeo came to check it out. This is a picture of the mock-up of my brain that they used for the trial surgery with the robot. It is not shelf stable, so I did not get to keep it. But I did get to keep the piece of my skull that everybody signed. That was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was coming out of surgery, the very first time I got to interact with my BCI with a computer. And that very first week, I was ready to go, man. I was like, all right, now that I've mastered the spike rasters, how do I do cursor? And the very first week, they don't let you drive. So there's a week of having the implant where they do data collection about 5 or 10 minutes a day, and you're trying to preserve your battery life to make it for the whole week until you get approved for charging. So you're not supposed to use your laptop at all, because you don't want your battery dying before the end of the week. And when they clear you for charging, it's like being handed the keys to a Lamborghini. There is like, all right, here you go, have fun. And it, like, holy smokes. I mean, just calibrating the very first time was so satisfying. just moving the cursor and watching it get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner as the models updated and iterated to clean up the signals I was sending to match my intention. And it was waking up and using it every day since then has been an absolute delight. And just real quick, on a side, because of something my mom said, part of what they ask you in the questions for getting a Neuralink, one of the big ones that happens probably a half a dozen times, because they want you to know that this is a research trial. And, there are no guarantees of personal benefit. My job as a research participant was to go get brain surgery and hope that it worked right. That's what we were there for. And so there were questions along the way of, how do you feel about the possibility of waking up from surgery and not being able to use your implant? Because it hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. And so really trying to prepare people for the idea that this is research, and if everything goes great, this is going to be incredible. And if for whatever reason you're the first participant whose implant doesn't work, are you willing to work with us to figure out why? Are you still willing to do research with us? For me, it was a no-brainer. Like, absolutely, if it doesn't work, I'm going to be seriously bummed out, and to understate it a lot. But I would still have the opportunity to be the first person to help diagnose what happens, what made this thing not work. And that is hugely beneficial data. And so there's still work to be done, whether I have personal benefit from it, in my opinion. But that's one of the things that gives you pause. Everything about Neuralink is heck yeah, that's full speed ahead. What if it doesn't work? You kind of have a record scratch moment. What do you mean? It worked the other 7 times. That's true. It definitely did. But this is still research, and we're building the case that this is completely safe. That's what I was there for as a human participant in the human trials. And so needing to seriously weigh that out and sit with it and think about it. I think that there are some people who that would be a deal breaker. I'm not trying to be the guinea pig who has the chip not work. I don't want to be participant broken and now we got to learn stuff. But to temper that doom and gloom. So far, I mean, when I went in, they were 7 for 7, and now they're 12 for 12, which is a pretty solid track record. Yeah, I would say it's always a good idea to temper your expectations and make sure you are prepared for an outcome you do not expect, and to also hold space for the excitement and the uncertainty at the same time.
Okay, so you and P7 have had this friendly competition where we want to have like the highest bit rate, which is basically the best way to quantify the speed and accuracy that you can control the computer cursor. For the audience, this is a game called WebGrid where you can compare your own cursor control ability to how well a Neuralink patient could control their computer cursor. So this game is basically it's a very simple game. You move your cursor, click on these blue targets, and my average score, my typical score is around 9 bits per second. But Nick and P7 got higher scores. So I believe Jake's score was up to 10.6, and then you said, Pixar didn't happen, man. 10.6, I'm coming for that tomorrow. Let's go. And have you gotten a higher score since then?
I'm not going to talk about that too much because whatever score he did or did not achieve, the scores that we have recorded are the scores that matter. There was a lot of friendly back and forth. I never passed a 10.6, but I also haven't pushed for a record in a while. I've been doing the robot arm stuff. I've been doing 10-figure typing stuff. I've had a lot of other Neuralink things going on. And basically the WebGrid out the gate is your first week and change at Neuralink is playing WebGrid and getting better and better and better at it. And so as long as you beat your score from yesterday, then you're going to do WebGrid again tomorrow. And if you beat your score from that day, you're going to do it again the next day. And basically they want to benchmark the participant with what is your personal limit for control on this thing? What's the output you can get? And when you stop beating your old score, that is kind of like your personal threshold. And once they know that, then you don't need to keep doing WebGrid anymore. They have the info they need from that, and they can move on to projects or whatever else they're going to do with the participants. And so that was early days when I hit a 10.39, and about 2 days after I hit that 10.39, I was doing WebGrid by myself, and I do have a screenshot of it somewhere because I'm a firm believer of Pixar. It didn't happen, but I scored 9.78 independently, which means I didn't have a BCI engineer on the back end bootstrapping the model, which is what they call it when they tweak things like the friction in the cursor or the glide or the smoothing or the gain. There are a lot of things you can adjust control on to really fine tune it. So working with a Neuralink BCI engineer while doing the web grid thing after having a really solid calibration myself allows you to really max out your score. So the idea that I hit a 9.78 without anybody on the back end tweaking anything, a couple of the BCI engineers were surprised, we'll say. They were pleasantly encouraged because that's not a thing that usually happens.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's better than I can get a lot of times. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the realization that a lot of people are going to have, is that those with an implanted Neuralink are able to control their cursor better than a healthy, able-bodied human without a Neuralink.
Right. I guess how much benefit is there in that? Like, I can close the windows on my computer faster and more accurately than you can. Like, cursor control, having really fine cursor control is hugely beneficial for people who are using Adobe Illustrator to, create art or graphic design for companies. You need to have a level of dexterity with that software, but you don't need that level of dexterity with Microsoft Word. You don't need that level of dexterity with Google Chrome. I prefer that level of dexterity. I very much enjoy having really, really precise control. I think it makes navigating my machine feel more natural, I guess. I get like being able to navigate it at least as well as I could able-bodied there's something about it. I like it. I will recalibrate if my cursor feels a little too bouncy when I get to whatever it is I'm about to click on. I really like having it dialed in tight. And I think where this is really, really going to shine is video games, potentially competitively. Being able to have that level of speed and precision, that's an arena in which that really matters. And I think there are plenty of other use cases outside email and web browsers and stuff where that level of precision is going to be massive. And being able to practice doing it and recalibrate it as needed so that it continues to get, like, you can keep that sword honed. It starts getting a little dull, you sharpen it right back up and you're good to go. And that, I think, is going to be very cool to see.
How often are you recalibrating right now?
It recently changed. Now I recalibrate about once every 2 days. Sometimes I'll do once a day, but in the beginning, apparently I didn't realize I missed something somebody said, but I was supposed to be calibrating every day. And when I found that out, I was like, well, why? I calibrate like once every week or 10 days because I wake up and I still have really sharp control. Why would I go in and mess that up? Like, I have a beautiful model that works exactly the way I want it to. And if I go calibrate, I might lose some of that precision. So until it degrades enough, I don't really like to do that. So they changed the protocols for me on how frequently I should be calibrating. And I think I am part of a study of one because I had been doing it the wrong way, but maybe a better way or a more user-friendly way. Like, if your cursor works great, keep using it. You don't need to spend 30 minutes today calibrating. If by the end of the day it's all over the place, calibrate at night. You don't have to do it, every morning first thing. Do it as needed. So that is something that we're working on and learning about. And in the last couple weeks, it has felt like I have needed to calibrate more. And I don't know if that is part of my ALS progression, if there are motor neurons in my cortex that aren't quite doing what they used to do, or if it's just updates to the cursor to make it way more user-friendly. You just have to slap a calibration on it in the morning, and then, boy, howdy, you're good to go. So maybe a little column A, a little column B. I don't know for sure, but I have had to recalibrate a little more regularly in the last few weeks to a month.
So I don't expect this, but to ease some of the concerns of skeptics out there, have you encountered any technical issues like thread retraction, as we heard from Nolan? And if so, how has the Neuralink team addressed those?
I have not encountered anything like Nolan did. The closest thing I had to that, my BCI would occasionally just disconnect. Like, I didn't get up and scoot away from my laptop. It's still right in front of me. And it's just like, boom, disconnected. And I have to say the special phrase to reconnect my implant. And then it reconnects and I'm good to go. And we don't know why it was randomly dropping. It hadn't been before that. It did for maybe 2 days, 3 days. Not all the time, but I probably had 2 to 4 disconnects over the course of a whole day. And it's a simple fix. You just say implant connect, and then we're already connected. Thank you, though. And you're back in business. It's really that easy. So it's not like it was a burden or anything, but it was, that's not functioning the way it's supposed to. So we look at that, they check all the logs, try and figure out what it is that's causing that. And then, like I said, they release updates so frequently that I'm fairly certain that got taken care of very shortly after I had an issue. I had a couple recent disconnects, but again, it's such a simple fix. Like, to me, that's not concerning. Like, that's not a moment like Nolan had to deal with. Like, I don't think any of us have had that kind of thing happen since Nolan. I don't know for sure, but I can't think of any instances that I'm aware of.
And then just to make sure to close it for those who aren't super familiar with Neuralink, the issue that was happening for Nolan, now it's gone. I mean, they patched it up with a software update and continue to work with them. And
yeah, completely. Like, the speed at which Neuralink iterates is mind-boggling. Like, hours. They iterate within hours to make their product and software better. And so after Nolan had his issue, they figured out how or why, what could they do to fix that, and modified the procedure for everyone following that to avoid that exact situation. So being able to identify issues like that and correct for them before the next procedure is incredible, I think. And the iterations with the software, he had some of the threads pull out just a little bit, which meant some of the sensors pulled out a little bit. So he didn't have quite, like, I think we all start out with 1,000 or something. And so he had fewer than 1,000. I don't know how much. But they were able to, with a software patch, get him back almost all of the functionality that he had lost. He's back in business, baby. It's, and God bless him. I don't know how well I would have handled that situation myself. I think it was probably more than a little nerve-wracking.
Sure. I mean, especially being the first one, and I mean, I know Neuralink had talked about that they eventually got more functionality than when he had started losing it. So
Yes.
that was pretty great. Compared to other previous assisted technologies you've used, I mean, I know you described some at the beginning, and you said how helpful they are. But compared to those, how does Neuralink feel in terms of speed, accuracy, and mental fatigue? And were you able to go? I think you were able to go outside prior to getting a Neuralink.
Oh,
Because,
yeah.
Brad, the third ALS or the first ALS patient with a Neuralink, was not able to go outside because using eye gaze, any light would be like a
Yeah, the glare ruins it. And especially for me, if I had needed to use eye gaze, it's Brad doesn't wear glasses, or maybe he does, and I only see him with contacts. But the glare from the glasses on top of the glare from the eye gaze, it makes it impossible. Like, you just can't. But I wasn't using eye gaze. So I spent most of last summer outside. I think I put maybe 600 miles on my wheelchair last summer, just cruising all over every day. That's what I did. It was a nice day, so I was outside cruising. I didn't have a whole lot else to do. I didn't have a whole lot else to look forward to at the time, but I was getting outside every day because that seemed like at least I was doing something, finger quotes, healthy. And, even if I wasn't going out and walking and getting my steps in. So I was an outside kid a lot last year. And then getting the BCI, neighbors have been asking my folks in the neighborhood, like, we didn't see Nick like at all this summer. Is he okay? Is everything all right? He was out so much, and we're like, no, he's good. He became a little bit more of an indoor kid because he's on his laptop a lot. So it's been life-changing in a lot of ways, and all of them good for me so far. I can't imagine a negative, short of an issue like Nolan's or something we've never seen before. It's like, whoa, that's not supposed to do that. But short of some unknown thing, I expect that this will continue to be an absolutely incredible adventure, even if it's not going to cure my ALS or slow it down. It will give me things to look forward to every day. And the quote you read earlier, the joyful glee of anticipation, losing that is a much, I mean, it's big. That's not a small thing. Losing joyful anticipation about the future completely is difficult. It's life-changing in not a good way. And getting that back, regardless of whether I'm moving a cursor or controlling a robot arm or launching a meme coin, whatever I'm doing, is I'm excited about being able to do the things that I don't even know I can do yet. Like, especially with Neuralink, in my opinion, the sky is the limit. One of the questions I had going into it was, so do we know what the upper limits of this chip is? Like, how much can you do with it? Like, do we know that you could pull 8 buttons for a controller, but probably not 16? Or, what are we talking about? Do we know what the limits of what we're working with are? And at the time, the answer was no. We don't know what the upper limits are. We're still researching it. We're still seeing what people are capable of doing with it. And right now, all of us have 1,000 sensors. If you put a Neuralink implant with 10,000 sensors, suddenly the fidelity of the signal you're able to pull is so much higher. What could you possibly do with that? Like, who knows? But I have been delighted in working with Neuralink so far to find out that even with 1,000, we don't really know where the upper limit is yet. Like, how many buttons can there be? How many arms can you control? What is the human brain capable of? And I am really excited to be able to help discover those things.
That's been a common theme whenever I've talked to patients, is the hope for the future, and just making, like, not losing that hope is incredibly powerful. So I'm happy to hear that you're in that same boat. Are there ways that you would think could be possible in the future? Like, right now you've had this assisted robotic arm. Probably longer term, you could, I assume, connect to a full Optimus robot or multiple, and then you would really have like a digital extension of your body. That would be wild.
That would be incredible. I think it's a lot of fun. My dad and I do it a lot when he's up to visit, but to hypothesize about what this tech could do in the next and I don't know, 2 weeks at this point. Like, it's all happening so fast. Like, I would have guessed 50 years minimum before they had a viable product like a Neuralink. And I certainly would have been around to see it. But the ideas of being able to control an entire Optimus robot, they are working on blind sight, right? To be able to feed images directly into your visual cortex. We already have cochlear implants, but if we are using them instead of hearing the outside world, we're using them for listening to our Spotify playlists headphone free, then that is, absolutely bonkers. And being able to be even a quadriplegic, but a sighted person with a blind sight implant and seeing heads-up display overlays over your vision, or being able to hop into an Optimus robot in Australia and have the video signal from Australia fed to my brain. I can see what that Optimus robot is seeing, even though I'm not blind. And I think we have a lot of fun imagining how crazy the world could get with implants that, I mean, I know I showed you the sutures on that, but implants that are, in my opinion, and it's open brain surgery, not terribly invasive. To be able to do those things is not far off. It's not going to be science fiction for very much longer, because they already have the tools and the roadmap to make it happen. And so the unexpected possibilities of a Neuralink, and kind of like I said, do we know where the upper limit is with just 1,000 sensors? No. And so we might be able to go a long, long way with 1,000 sensors, and then getting up to 10,000, like being able to move a biomimetic arm, not the one with pincers, but the ghost one on the screen with fingers. I can individually open and close my fingers. Pinky ring, middle, first thumb. Just click, 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 click. That's not a thing my hands do, but I'm able to do it. And it's not a small thing. Like, mapping the human hand is such a huge task, and we're doing it. There's the idea that an Optimus arm is not that far off, not that far-fetched, is real today. Like, that's part of what we're creating. That's, yeah. I think one of the most surprising things about the cursor control is being able to pause, realize exactly what it is I'm doing here, which is complete science fiction. I have this thing in my brain. My cursor's moving around my screen right now. I fidget with it. I haven't been able to fidget in years, but I'll just draw circles just because I can. And the possibilities that will be available as this technology continues to improve on the software side especially, and on the hardware side it's, to me, that is, you know, when people are starting to get the first N2 implants, that's going to be awesome. Like, what are those folks going to be able to do? You know, we've all got an N1, and when they iterate that, that's going to be something really special to see.
Definitely. When you were talking about like embodying some like a robot or any video feed really from anywhere, it's like if you have any type of sensors that are not just visual, they could be auditory or tactile sensors, or even like smell, I don't know, olfactory or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
olfactory.
but if you have like all of those attached to an Optimus, then if that Optimus is like hiking on top of the coolest mountain or summiting Mount Everest or on Mars or wherever,
Yeah.
if you have that feed, like you basically are there.
Yeah, that's I'm a little hopeful / worried that I might end up on Mars, the only human there, with a bunch of Optimus robots, being like, he was the perfect candidate. He had ALS, you know, he wanted to go. It's awesome. There's just me and an army of robots doing our best to terraform Mars. And I think that would be absolutely wild, because I do think with the Optimus robots, you're probably going to need a human for every 200 to 500 of them. And having a human hardwired to them, or not hardwired, I guess, wirelessly connected, seems a lot easier than having a robot that comes back that you have to take apart and run diagnostics, and that robot comes back and I can look at it, connect to it, and be like, oh, that's what's wrong. Here you go, buddy. You're fixed. Back to terraforming Mars. And yeah, the possibilities are fantastic and not unthinkable.
You've mentioned collaborating with AI and holding your own against it. How are you using tools like Grok or ChatGPT with the implant?
I use tools like Grok and GPT-5 for a lot of things that everybody does, but my cursor control is from my brain. And that's not a terribly exciting answer, but it's I have been using Grok. I started with GPT, switched over to Grok, working on my theory of consciousness and consciousness individuation, and how that works from a philosophical, theological, and scientific perspective, potentially being able to identify changes in individual consciousness, to hopefully help solidify and prove my theory. Alternatively, somebody points something out, my theory falls apart, and that's science. Then we move on from there and figure out what we've learned and what else we can do. So Grok has been fantastic. Really, AI has been fantastic in helping me learn the things I needed to learn to be able to speak intelligently on the subjects that I'm writing about. So that has been hugely helpful. I am excited for the possibility of right functionality. It's a little scary / taboo / you know, I don't want people sending signals into my brain. But if I'm doing the research and I can fully understand quantum mechanics in 5 minutes. It's like Neo. I know Kung Fu. Like that, I think would be incredible. I might learn Kung Fu just to be able to say that, even though I'm a quadriplegic. But yeah, like the idea of being able to write to the brain at speeds that we can't write to our own brains with just visual, auditory, or kinetic learning. Like it's you can learn those things. You can memorize them. You can read it. You can listen to it. You can watch it. You can do it. But to be able to incorporate information like that at speeds heretofore absolutely unexpected, impossible, I think that is hugely exciting, and it doesn't scare me.
It's insane that all this is happening with AI development, and to me, it makes it even more crazy that Elon had seen that this was going to happen. Where he's like, "Okay, we're starting Neuralink in the first place to make sure that like biological intelligence and human desires don't separate too drastically from this digital superintelligence." Because like now, if we were using Grok or GPT or any of these AI models, and we weren't able to like communicate with it quickly, I mean, even like if we were even slower than type texting to it, then it would be so frustrating. We have this incredible digital superintelligence, and if we have the Neuralink and we can interface with it well, then we'll be able to become one and the same with it. It'll just be a true extension of ourselves. That's crazy that this is happening. Like, I mean, the Neuralink thing, like Neuralink's development and AI development are just going so fast right now.
Yeah, watching them happen at the same time, like concurrently, is really cool. And I think it's funny. I am gonna say that XAI and Grok are not incorporated in Neuralink technology. I've been seeing that in a lot of posts on X recently, and I confirmed with Neuralink, XAI and Grok are not part of the software or the creation of it that we are using. The Neuralink and the Link app and all of it are separate from XAI and Grok. That's not to say they will be forever, but for right now, we're doing all of this without XAI and Grok, which I think is more impressive. Like they're like, if you get to a point with this thing that you begin to integrate XAI and Grok after you've got it dialed in, like to me, that makes way more sense and could be huge. It would have such a huge impact. The exponential growth you would see in what you're able to do, how quickly you can calibrate, how many robots you can control. To me, those integrations are going to be fascinating and exciting, but we're not there yet.
I'm really excited about when they're able to like optimize the decoding algorithms and utilize that, like maximally use the data from everybody's brain. If you can start to detect or like have early detection of neurodegenerative disorders, or even like start to recreate parts of the brain or the whole brain. Like if you have a million implants in millions of people, then you start to be able to recreate intelligence.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
so
I
cool.
mean, when you talk about big data, that is on a whole nother level. Like having that massive amount of data about human intent from the brain is going to be, especially when you have AI to analyze it, like you'll they'll be able to run a study on 1,000 people in a year, and at the end of the study have it compiled and ready to go within a week. Like it's absolutely, like, it's gonna change. I think there are probably gonna be several major paradigm shifts before my life is over, and that is absolutely bonkers, and probably at least 2 dozen before yours. Like, it's just gonna keep, if technology keeps growing at an exponential rate, that's why I have a brain implant. We've been talking about tech growing exponentially for the last 20 years. Well, if that's the case, by year 20, the leap you're making is massive. And by next year, who knows how big of a leap we'll make. I mean, Elon's catching rockets out of the sky. Like, I'm controlling a robot with my brain. The speed with which technology advances is going to make it indistinguishable from magic very soon.
But basically, like, has the implant made mobility and travel easier?
Not yet. Like, I just found out that I could fly with a power wheelchair this year. We finally gave it a shot. There are so many very, very specific requirements that you have to look up on your own to be able to do that. Prior to that, we drove to Miami for my final screening, and that's 3 days down, 3 days of screening, and 3 days back. And it can be done in a van, but it's not ideal when you could do it in an afternoon in an airplane. So we have recently learned to travel with a power wheelchair, and it is very, very difficult. And the Neuralink, well, it's tough until you figure out what you got to do. But the Neuralink is not helping at all. The Neuralink did help me to tweet at Spirit Airlines after a particularly bad experience. So that I don't think that's quite what we're looking for in helping with travel. But ideally, being able to drive my wheelchair with it, because it's a cursor, it's a joystick, right? It's the same thing maneuvering around. So being able to directly connect to my wheelchair would be huge. Like, just being able to drive around without touching my joystick, maybe without having a joystick there. I'll just go full Professor X and float around in my chair without hands in my lap, not touching anything. And I think that would be pretty awesome.
Can you talk about your experience interacting with the Neuralink team and specifically the team at the University of Miami? And then can you also explain the difference between the Miami project to cure paralysis and the hospital itself?
I will do my best.
Okay.
Especially for that last one. So the Neuralink team, both teams, everybody has been absolutely incredible to work with at Neuralink and Health. I don't think I've encountered anybody who I have been like, yikes, that guy's a little, that's none of these people. They're all really, really great people. And I think at Neuralink, and probably they do a very good job of hiring very good people. And it seems to be that way at Health. Before my surgery, one of the things that happens in your final screening is you sit down with the surgical team. So I sat in a conference room and 3 of the biggest neurosurgeons at Health came in and spent a good bit of time with me and answered my questions, talked to my dad. A 4th surgeon was in surgery, and he stopped by when he was done just to introduce himself, and then he had to run to another surgery. But he came by and stopped to say hello and introduce himself as part of the surgical team. And I don't think that's something that happens regularly. The amount of time that I have spent talking with and getting to know neurosurgeons and neuroscientists and BCI engineers, and I feel so fortunate that these people would spend that much time with me talking about the surgery, talking about BCI, talking about our histories, like really getting to know these people. And that's Neuralink and Health. I call her my handler, Letitia from She's with the Project to Cure Paralysis. Shout out to the Buonaconti Fund, BUON Conti Fund. Check them out. It's a really awesome project, and it is a part of the Health services. It's they used to be, I might get some of this wrong. I believe they used to be in the Lois Pope Life Center, is where they were headquartered. Then they were moved to a new building that I refer to as Letitia's office, because I can't remember what the building is called. But all over the medical campus, there are nods to the Project to Cure Paralysis. It's one of the really, really big projects they have down there. Yeah, Buonaconti Fund Miami Project. That's them. My dad loves that logo. He thinks it's really great.
Wow.
I don't disagree. I think that's a pretty solid logo for the Project to Cure Paralysis. And like some of the really cool things that have the potential to happen, in my opinion, spinal cord injuries will be significantly easier than ALS. But the idea that you have a spinal cord injury, your spinal cord is severed, you get a Neuralink implant, and you get a Neuralink receiver put on your spinal cord below the severance, and then you walk out of the hospital, a week later or whatever, after being in an accident that severed your spinal cord. Like, that is, one of the things that we're reaching for, getting people back their own bodies. Like, I'm too far progressed. I'm not getting my own body back. But somebody who is freshly injured, like, that's plausible. And yeah, being able to help cure that level of paralysis. And maybe they find out, hey, if your spinal cord injury was recent enough, within however much time they determine, maybe you're a candidate to get your own movement back. It'll take a lot more rehab than somebody who's freshly been in an accident, but you could potentially do that. Probably for people like Audrey who have 20 years of atrophy, that's not going to be a thing. But buying digital autonomy with a Neuralink, getting the sense of joyful anticipation, I think is going to be more than enough for a lot of people. And someday, if we get to the point where people are walking out of the hospital after having their necks broken a week later because of Neuralink, that's not something outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that got me fascinated about Neuralink. Was it's weird, like a lot of folks, well, I guess including yourself, like there's so many folks who watch or listen to Neura Pod that they're really fascinated by science fiction. And I rarely consume movies or TV shows or video games. And so I wasn't very familiar with a lot of the sci-fi stuff, but I was fascinated by Neuralink because of the medical applications. And so one of them is like thinking about helping with dementia, Parkinson's, or Alzheimer's. And then the other is if you could reanimate the body and have somebody who's paralyzed walk again, that's just so incredible.
Yeah.
Can you share a little more about you and your background and what you're passionate about? Like, I know you talked about the drumming, but are there other things that you want people to know?
Yeah, I'm 43. I'll be 44 in November. I was diagnosed January 5th, 22. Onset of weakness was middle of 21. And the average life expectancy with this diagnosis is 2 to 5 years from onset of weakness. And I was really, really fortunate to get a quick diagnosis. And life with ALS has been nothing short of life-changing, including all of the horrible parts, all of the really rough days and frustrations, and that part was very, very hard. And I think it made me a gentler person. Kind of out of necessity for my own mental well-being, but also ALS takes a lot of your energy. You get fatigued very quickly. I don't know if you're familiar with spoon theory, but I have fewer spoons every single day. Like, if I was waking up with 40 spoons 6 months ago, I'm waking up with 7. And that's hard to deal with. It's like a spoonful of energy. And think of it like Zelda hearts. And I I was able to spend a lot of time putting those miles on my wheelchair, reflecting, thinking, considering life, considering not life, considering so many things because that's all I had time for. The things that brought me joy before I couldn't do anymore. I wasn't going to go sit down at the drum set for a couple hours and, knock it out. I was going to drive around thinking about this the whole time. And being afforded years to consider life and what it is and what it means and what mine has been, and am I who I wanted to be? Is this where I expected to be? Not even close. But being able to have the time to sit down and consider all of those things gives you a depth and breadth of perspective that most people are not afforded because there just isn't the time to do that level of thinking and sitting with it and rolling it around endlessly because you can't get it out of your head. It sounds not great, but it was liberating in a lot of ways. And I think it helped me to be a better Neuralink candidate. And my personal journey included losing the ability to play the drums and losing the ability to run around and take pictures. I was a photographer, and pretty good one, I think. And so losing photography and design and drums and music and all of that is heartbreaking. And that's just one of the dozen words that describes what it really is. And gaining that back, like being handed something that you said goodbye to. Like I literally said goodbye to my hands. I thanked them. I had a moment. And getting that robot arm, like picking something up off the ground, like getting little things back, getting big things back, getting anything back in a situation where, like Mom said earlier, every day is going to be worse than the day before it. You're just going to lose more and more and more every day. And having the ability to find the gratitude in all of the situations and learning to give myself and others grace and being able to be happy in a moment, even if it's not a happy day, and being able to find that joy. I learned a new word after I was diagnosed, compersion. Check it out. It's kind of awesome. Compersion is being happy for other people's successes. It's like really, truly finding joy in the things that make them happy. And so practicing compersion was huge for me. And it helped to change my perspective about a lot of people. And yeah, there you go. The feeling of joy or happiness one experiences when seeing someone they care about finding happiness or pleasure with another person. Oh, often in a romantic or sexual. But yeah, it's well, that took a weird turn. Yeah, being happy for other people and celebrating their wins is a really, really helpful coping tool, I guess. When I'm not going to have very many wins and other people around me are, being able to celebrate them with them, you know, as excited as they are about it is, yeah, it's really good.
What message do you want to convey to the world about Neuralink's potential?
I was going to say, sky's the limit as far as we know.
Is there anything else you'd like to share? Like, I mean, I guess like specifically for these different groups, like there are some people who may be, you know, future patients, they're maybe Neuralink employees, and then there's just other folks who are becoming more aware of this technology.
Yeah, I would say to the potential participants, please tell me I didn't break that. Okay. To the potential participants, go for it. Not flippantly. Really pause and think about it because it's not a small thing to be taken lightly. You're opening your brain and these are human trials, right? This is research. So I think for the potential benefit, to me, it was worth it. And I think everybody who wants to apply to the registration, I have a link to it on my Twitter. I know you have a link to it at Neura Pod. Go check out the patient registry. Yeah, there are millions of people who want a Neuralink, and you are, there it is, you are able to throw your hat in the ring. And who knows, just maybe you'll get an email to have a phone call with them. And then maybe that phone call goes well. And then maybe the next phone call goes well. And then maybe the visit goes well. And there are a lot of steps along the way. But if this is something you're considering, I don't want to say do it without hesitation, but do it confidently, knowing that this is a company and a technology that is going to change the future, whether or not it brings you personal benefit. And if you happen to be one of the lucky ones, all 12 of us so far have been, there will be a pretty decent benefit add to your life. But it's still an if, and I think that needs to be kept in mind. To the Neuralink employees, just a big round of applause from everybody. Just if everybody could just stand up and start clapping at your desk right now, just let's all give them a round of applause. The things that they do every single day are nothing short of miraculous. Well, some of them are, you know. I think tweaking the colors on the web grid might not have been a miracle, but it was still a really good fix. So keep up the great work. Everybody over there is frankly as much of an inspiration as every patient that they work with. Sorry, every participant that they work with. Yeah. And if you're interested in the tech, definitely follow Ryan's podcast. He does a great job. It's a great spot to get a lot of information on Neuralink. You can check out their official website. My understanding is the information there is a little bit limited. But if you're looking for, you know, the milestones and breakthroughs that they've had, you can go on X, formerly Twitter, and find stories from, I want to say, at least 9 of the 12 of us, like direct from the source. The Neuralink patients are posting the things that they're doing. And it's kind of cool to watch. I love getting to watch the things that Nolan and Audrey and the rest of them are doing on Brad especially.
A quick moment to talk about another Neuralink ALS patient, Brad, losing his voice and then regaining it via a voice clone from 11 Labs.
Hi, I am Brad Smith. I'm the third person in the world to receive the Neuralink brain implant. I'm also the first person with ALS and the first nonverbal. This is my old voice narrating this video, cloned by AI from recordings before I lost my voice.
As you can tell, the voice is quite realistic, and the AI models continue improving. They specifically have a program for people with ALS where they'll likely be eligible for free access through the 11 Labs Impact program. I've left a link down in the description. Thanks, and back to the episode.
He gets to do some cool stuff, man. So check it out. See all the things that the Neuralink patients are doing. If you're really interested, the participants are a great place to start, or they're a great place to go after Neura Pod.
Yeah, appreciate that shout out. Like you said, there are others. There, Rob and Jake are also on here. It's pretty great to just hear exactly like you said, like from their own experience, and you guys are posting images and videos of your lives. That's really great. And then just also testimonies, like your real everyday experiences are awesome to hear.
Yeah. And I stream live on Wednesdays on Twitch and a couple other places, talking about BCI and my life with ALS. And yeah, I've done 3 of them so far, and it's been really fun. I'm getting better with the software, so there are actually smooth transitions and stuff. It doesn't look like a guy who has no idea what he was doing, like it did last week. But you know, I'm getting there. So the live stream is a fun place to hang out, and I don't want to speak for anybody else, but if you're on X and you have questions, feel free to drop a DM or just at me in a message, and I will see what I can do to respond. I have 8 followers, you guys. Come check it out.
That's okay. Hopefully we'll try to get you to at least 50. That's the goal.
Nice. All right. I like it. Double digits.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. And everybody go follow Nick on X. His handle is at telepath_8. Like he said, like he mentioned, you feel free to message him and follow his posts because it's really great to hear, directly from the source. Thank you for having this conversation, and thanks, Mom, for tuning in as well and joining. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you guys.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It's been a pleasure talking to you.